Good morning, everybody from all over Europe. Welcome. You're still entering the webinar. We're still slightly over 160 participants, but more are joining us for this beautiful webinar.
Good morning, great to see you. I see some people putting thumbs up, great. Yeah, indeed, we muted you all because we're a big group. So that's why we thought it's better to mute in case we get some background noise, which will be difficult. But you can write in the chat if you like, or put thumbs like you're already doing. Great. Good vibes.
And the numbers are increasing. We are 185. 190. We'll start in a second. Let's see if we reach the 200. Okay, I think we should start. And if more people will be joining us, then they'll just drop in. So once again, good morning, everybody from all over Europe. Welcome to this first of 4 webinars on impact. We will start with a very short presentation about ourselves. So who are we? First of all, my name is Sam. I work with MDF, an international training and consultancy firm working for impact. You may call me an impact advisor, and I'm based in the Netherlands. And I'm here together with Karin. Karin, can you say a few words about yourself?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Or at least I assume good morning, but maybe for some already afternoon. My name is Karin Roosendaal, colleague of Sam's, also working for MDF Training Consultancy. And I'm a learning advisor, so I always look at like how do people learn, and especially how can we make that impactful. So I'm happy to be here with you.
And the third speaker with us is Judith from the Netherlands. So please, Judith, if you can say a few words.
Yes, hi, my name is Judith Deyes. I work for the National Agency Erasmus Plus for Education and Training in the Netherlands, where I am a policy officer and part in charge of this project where MDF is carrying out these webinars for us. The project is called Impact Monitoring and Evaluation.
Okay, thank you, Judith. You may, before we dive into the content, please have a look at these very nice images. These images reflect change, or rather multiple changes that may be achieved with the implementation of the Erasmus Plus projects throughout Europe. I think it is fair to assume that we are all in this webinar because we want to invest our time and energy in conducting projects that will bring about change. Change, a positive impact on young as well as possibly elderly people, on the organizations we work in and for. For example, on our schools, our universities, or other organizations that may get funding for the Erasmus Plus projects. Together, we will contribute to European citizens who thrive in a more sustainable and more inclusive Europe. The purpose of these webinars is to help you with that we will all achieve more impact with our Erasmus Plus funding. We will do this by organizing 4 webinars. And these have the following titles. Understanding impact, that's the first one. That's the one that we're in today. Defining impact before application, monitoring and evaluation of impact, and managing for impact. Okay, it is important to realize that these webinars are not standalone. They're linked to the Erasmus Plus handbook, and each of these webinars are closely linked to one of the chapters of this document. So if you want to dive deeper into the content, we strongly encourage you to read the handbook. The webinars and the handbook will help you prepare for achieving this positive impact or change. In any case, Karin will now share with you the link to the handbook in the chat. And Karin, thumbs up, she has done it. Thank you, Karin. Okay, wonderful. let's move on. Before going further, there's some kind of rules for this webinar and a number of buttons that you may be able to use during this Zoom webinar. Well, you may have noticed already your microphone has been automatically muted upon entering this webinar. As we will be quite many, well, 222 at the moment, we decided that it will not be possible to unmute, at least during the central part, the plenary part of the webinar. If that is possible, I'm not sure if everybody has their camera on, but if you're not, please activate your video camera so that we can all see each other. Have a look at each other. So who are the other participants? You may go and have a look at all of you. And oh, I see very nice images from across Europe. Okay, very nice. Good if you can have a look at each other. Then there is something else. You will be indicated in your the webinar with your name, but it may be nice if you could rename yourself, and you can do that by clicking on the 3 little dots on your video, on your own video. And if possible, include the country and possibly the name of the organization you're working for. You can see the example on the slide. So my name is Sam Boering, and I've included NL and I've included MDF. So see if you can do that. That will be nice. I give you a second to rename yourself. Okay. Okay, still busy. Okay. Anyhow, I'll just continue. Then of course there's the chat box. You may have seen already the link to the document, the guide. Yeah, but of course in the chat box you may put in questions that will arise during the webinar. So you may see or hear something that you say, I would like to know a little bit more about what has been said just now. The second facilitator, the one who is not talking, or so maybe Karin or Judith at this moment, they will scan the questions and they will answer the questions if they think it is possible to answer them immediately. Yeah, and in the chat box. But otherwise, we will also take these questions to answer them later in the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Yeah, so it may be that, well, we are 230 participants. It may be that there's so many questions that we may not answer them all, but we will see how it works. And then, of course, the last part is you will see the video camera appearing at the bottom. This webinar is being recorded so that national agencies may actually upload this video recording on their website and share it with other people who are interested in knowing more about impact. Okay, having said that, let's dive a little bit more into the content of this first webinar, which is about understanding impact. We have a number of objectives that we would like to achieve with this webinar. First of all, we would like you to understand the importance of defining impact in your Erasmus+ program. It is not just about doing things, but about achieving change. Secondly, that you will recognize that projects will achieve results and that these results actually present different levels of change. Very important. And also that you will realize that the change or results that we will talk about in this webinar may be completely different than the things we usually talk about or often talk about, which could be like the number of people that are included in the project or reached by a project. For example, in our communication and dissemination efforts. And of course, thirdly, very important is that you will all be motivated to contribute to the various impact priorities of the Erasmus+ program. Okay. Today's agenda looked like this. First, we will zoom in on impact in the Erasmus+ program. Secondly, we will share our motivation to apply for funding. This will be a very interesting exercise in breakout rooms, so get ready for this later. Yeah, because we think that motivation is closely related to the change we want to achieve. It answers the question, why do we want to have these projects? And therefore, when we think about these questions, about why do we want to do these projects, we are most likely already thinking about the possible impact of our projects. And a side benefit of sharing is that it will also be inspiring to hear from others what motivates us and all of us in applying for this Erasmus Plus funding. And thirdly, we will have a look at different types of project results and the definitions and concepts in relation to impact and results. Okay, but now let's get to know each other a bit better. Yeah, so who are you? We will do this by a poll. And please answer the 4 questions that you will come up, and we will share the results shortly. Okay, 203 persons have answered. This is going very well. (213 persons have answered the questions. Okay. I think we can 216, so it's still going up. Okay, maybe we can just share the results and have a look together. Okay, you can see the variety of okay. All right, you can see the variety of the countries where we are all from. I would say Finland is the winner today with 23% of the people who are participating are actually coming from Finland. So congratulations, Finland. You're the top priority there. Okay, wonderful. We can also see that many people are based in the capital, but there are variety, so from different places within the country. There's from the capital or the big city, or also from smaller towns. So there's quite a spread of people in this webinar. And the sector that you work in, I can see that the biggest is in higher education. But also still sports and youth, there's a number of people who work in those sectors. And many years of experience, I can see that almost 20% of the people here in this webinar have more than 10 years experience of working with Erasmus Plus projects. And quite a number, also 46% of people who have less than 2 years. So there are also people who are new to this program. Okay, thank you. Thank you for letting this know. Wonderful. Let's see, we can move to the next slide. I think it is time that we have a look at impact in the Erasmus Plus program and maybe look at what types of impact do we want to achieve. And I'm going to ask Judith to help us with this, and I'm going to forward the slides to the next one. Judith, the floor is yours. Please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I work for the national agency Erasmus Plus. And as I think most of you have experience with Erasmus Plus, you know, it's the education and training program for the European Union. In my NA, we cover the sectors higher education, school education, vet, and adult education. And then there's a second national agency in the Netherlands, and they manage the youth and sports key actions. And for each of these sectors, there are specific priorities that we want to target with all the activities that are funded through the program. Can I have the next slide, please? Yes. So we have, first of all, horizontal priorities, and horizontal means throughout the program for all sectors, for all key actions, for everyone who's taking part in Erasmus+. These priorities are the most important ones, and they are inclusion and diversity. This means, for example, equal opportunities for everyone. The idea is that everyone can take part in your projects, regardless their background, regardless their situation or their previous education. Then, of course, you've heard of the Green Deal. So there's also Green Erasmus. Environmental sustainability is a very important priority for the program. It's about fighting against the climate change. It's about education on green aspects of everything in society, basically, and also green skills for the participants. Then the digital transformation. It's about improving the use of digital technology and also the development of digital tools to help you work on your projects and to help achieve the goals of your project. And the fourth horizontal priority is participation and civic engagement. And this is all about teaching pupils, students about EU values, about European citizenship, and also giving teachers tools on how to teach about the institutions and the values of the EU. Yes, next one. And this project is all about impact. And what do we mean by impact? And how do these projects that are funded by Erasmus Plus have impact on the community, to say? Well, first of all, there's always a big impact on the individuals taking part in the mobility activities, in the partnership projects, because it allows you to go abroad and have an experience and meet people from other countries, to speak a different language, to gain new skills, and it increases the capacity of staff of organizations to trigger modernization of their curriculum, for example, or to increase opportunities for career development. And it's a bit motivational aspect as well. Then the next level of impact of the funded projects is on your organization. So the organization where you work or where you learn. The organizations are starting up longer lasting partnerships with organizations in other European countries. They develop their curriculum, or also they adapt, for example, to digital transformation by working together with organizations in other countries. Then there's usually also an impact on community level. So the organizations and the people in the direct environment of your organization and of the individuals, because they bring their experiences to you, to their local community. And think about changing norms and values, or developed inclusive or sustainable practices in the community, youth participation in the community. This is all a spin-off of Erasmus Plus projects. And then the final impact level is on policy, so a systemic impact, because it has an impact on the educational system in the European countries. The idea is to make it more inclusive, to make the education systems more innovative, and innovate in the digital education and training systems, and also to have increased youth policy cooperation. So these are the 4 levels that have been identified for impact of the Erasmus Plus project. Of course, the impact is very wide, and it can be achieved on various levels and on various topics. So the topics would be the horizontal and sector priorities, and the levels from individuals to systemic. And if you want to find out about the priorities for a specific sector, then there's always the program guide, which we'll show you in a bit. So if you look at this table, for example, the inclusion and diversity in this table, it shows you that you can achieve impact on individual level, for example, to have a more open mindset to inclusive practices of teachers and students. But you can also have impact on organizational level. For example, a change in school policy or a change practice related to inclusion and diversity in your organization. On the community or the society, you can, for example, see that members of the community are more open to people from different cultural backgrounds. It opens your mind. And on a systemic level, it sometimes even has an effect on inclusive education systems or policies in a country or a region. And like I said, you can find all the details on the priorities in the Erasmus Plus program guide. So that would be the next slide, I think. Yeah, we sometimes call it our Bible. It's a massive document. It's 400 plus pages. And I really would not recommend to start at the beginning and read your way all the way through to the end. The program guide for 2026 has just been published last week. If you look at the table of contents, this is where you start and you pick and mix whatever would be relevant for your situation. It is structured in the key actions. So first, the mobility actions, and then the partnership projects, and then also the project managed directly by the European Commission itself. But here you will find all the priorities and the impact that we would like to achieve with the funded projects. I think it's now over to Karin, who will show a video, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Karin, please.
Yeah, so thank you, Judith, for explaining all these different types of impacts that you can achieve with an Erasmus Plus project. And some projects you will focus on one or two, and others you will have multiple. Just to give you a bit of an idea, like Judith, you already gave some examples, but we wanted to give you a bit of an idea of what a project could achieve. So we have a video here to share with you. It's from the Belgian, actually the Flemish NA. About a project that they did, and they researched what is the impact of that project. Maybe nice if you take a pen and paper. If you have a pen and paper nearby, take it. So while watching the video, write down if you can recognize the different impacts, and then write them down for yourselves. Yeah, so I'll give you just a few seconds. Take a pen and paper. Make sure you're ready. The video takes about 3 minutes. And you will see what impact it has achieved. Yes, let's see if we can start it like this.
Independent research agency IDA Consult examined the impact of Erasmus Plus and eTwinning on Flemish schools. They examined 3 dimensions: teaching quality, school development, and internationalization. What did this research reveal? In terms of quality of education, Erasmus Plus and eTwinning have an extremely positive impact. The programs expand students' horizons and increase their self-reliance, sense of responsibility, and self-confidence. This strengthens their position in the job market and increases their opportunities, vulnerable students in particular. Teachers, in turn, experience more engagement, a better team atmosphere, and smoother collaboration. They feel empowered in their mission and are given more opportunities for personal and professional growth, which boosts their motivation. If we look at the class experience itself, Erasmus Plus and eTwinning provide inspiration for innovative teaching methods, and plenty of opportunities are created to link theory to practice. This creates new relationships between teachers and students, which strengthens the bond and increases mutual respect. The impact on school development is also very positive. Erasmus Plus and eTwinning create an open school culture where engagement, creativity, and innovation are key. New teaching methods are promoted and school infrastructure and classroom design optimized. The digital skill of both students and teachers are improved, and schools focus more on sustainability, participation, and inclusion. Cooperation within the school and with other schools, the labour market, and the local community becomes smoother, and the school gains a better image. Erasmus Plus and eTwinning also have a positive impact on the third dimension, internationalization. Schools are particularly encouraged to further internationalize. They expand their international network and take more initiatives for international projects. Internationalization is increasingly embedded in the school's DNA. Everyone gets involved and thus feels like a citizen of the world. The study further probed the success factors for Erasmus Plus and eTwinning. Students and teachers believe it is important to start small and approachable and then grow gradually. A clear project needs to be defined and communicated to inform, motivate, and engage both participants and those at home. The ability to share experiences is a must. The fact that it's free of charge is also a decisive factor in reaching and attracting a large target group. In the school itself, it is important that the project is led by a dedicated team and with support from the entire organization. Open communication about the project is crucial. At project level, there needs to be a relevant theme that aligns with the school's vision so that the project can be embedded in school operations and the curriculum. Good timing, achievable goals, reliable partners, and quality internships are the basis for the success of an Erasmus Plus or eTwinning project. The conclusion is therefore abundantly clear. Erasmus Plus and eTwinning have a lasting impact on schools, participants, and school alike.
Yes, great. So that was the video. And so maybe you can move on to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. I wanted to check with you, maybe write in the chat if you've seen any individual impacts on the individual level. And then write down in the chat the impacts that you have seen. Yeah. Great, you paid attention. Great, I see many things already, like more self-reliance for students, digital skills, students and teachers. And that's good to see. In here they mentioned both students who had an individual impact, but also teachers. So in one type of project, you can have different type of people can achieve an impact. Self-confidence, I see that multiple times coming back. Stronger position in the job market, personal growth, responsibility, connection, engagement, participation. I see a lot of things coming back. Great. Nice. So that is good to see, huh? Multiple impacts on an individual level. But it was not only individual level. I have also heard some impacts on organizational level. Can you write down some examples of this impact on organizational level? Yeah. Nice. I see many things coming back. You're so fast. So I see cooperation, improved infrastructure, improvement of teacher and student relationships. I see many things: better reach, team building, connection with local community. So that could also already be at community level, right? And there is connection at the organizational school level, but almost already at the community level. Internationalization of curriculums, expanding horizons. So there's many things already happening. Yeah, motivation boosts, more international projects, etc. Great. I see you understood the concept of that you can have impacts at different levels. It's individual, student, teacher, for example, but also organizational impacts where you can have also how is the school itself developing itself thanks to this project. And then we can take it further to society and also policy level. For now, we're not going to ask you to add that in the chat because we're going to have an exercise to reflect for yourself. So what I want to invite you to do is think about if you have already developed a project before for the Erasmus Plus, to think about this project and also think like, what was actually the reason we were doing this project? Was it, you asked for funding, but that was hopefully not the main reason that you would just get money, but hopefully you would wanted to do something with that money to really achieve something. So think for yourself what you wanted to achieve. If you haven't implemented the project yet, maybe think of a project that maybe you're playing with in your mind. Is this something that we could become an Erasmus project? You probably have something in your mind. Yeah? So what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to first reflect for yourself, but then go into the groups. And in the groups, of course, you'll introduce yourselves first a bit, and then take at least one case, if you have time, maybe two cases from one of the persons in the group, and to dive a bit further into that case. So ask that person, okay, so what is this project you want to implement or that you have implemented already? So what difference will the project make? Why is this important? Those are often the questions. If you want to think about impact, you ask these questions. Why is this project important? What difference will it make? And then you're going to try to see, will it make a difference at an individual level? If so, what? Will it make a difference in institutional, organizational level? And again, if so, what will be the impact on that level? And the same for community society. And maybe, if possible, it's not on the slide, but maybe just see also if you can think of the impact at policy level, so more like systemic change. Yeah? So for this, you will get about 20 minutes within your groups, and some will soon open the groups. If you have any question, we will try to roam around, but as we have a large group, it will be difficult to check in every group. So raise your hand, write a chat message, or come back to the plenary. Also, if there's, for one reason or another, you don't feel comfortable in a group, you can always come back to the plenary and ask your question, and we'll help you out. Yeah? So what's the time right now? In the Netherlands, it's 10:05. So we take 20 minutes, so until 5:25, and then we get you all back in the plenary. Yes? Is it clear? Thumbs up? Clear, clear? Okay, good luck. Enjoy your group work. Helen, do you have a question? Yeah, you cannot talk. Wait, I'll try to see if I can unmute you. Does this work?
There's about 18 people who were not able to, or who have not yet been able gone to the breakout rooms.
What you can do is try to go down in your Zoom, see if there's the icon of breakout groups, and then you can try to join again your group. But down on the bottom of your screen, usually there is an icon for breakout groups. Wait, I will allow you to. Now you can unmute yourself so you can talk, maybe it's easier. Sylvia? Yeah.
Yes, hello, sorry,
Hi.
I can't go to my breakout room. Can you organize it once more, please?
Yes, let me
Thank
see.
you.
Have you looked down into your screen? Is there an icon of breakout rooms for you?
I have already been in a breakout room and I came back. I don't know why.
Let me have a look.
I was in the breakout room 1.
Yeah. Let me see if I move you to another one, if that works better.
And otherwise, we do it in this room for the people who have not been.
Okay, sorry. Just to say, I'm alone in the room.
Okay, in which room are we?
37.
Okay, I'll put you in another room then.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, I see. Move to room 40. Hanneke, can we help you?
Hanneke, Madeline, and Sanna, they're all in room number 23, but none of them. There's 2 persons there, okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Some rooms are quite empty indeed.
Yeah.
Hi, Konstantinos. I'm back.
Maybe for the ones who are still here, please have a look at the menu at the bottom. There will be something which is called breakout rooms. Then click on that you will accept that you're going there. Yeah.
Hi, Felix. Should I add you to a breakout room?
It would be nice, yes. Sorry, I just reconnected.
Yeah. Room 36. Peter, should I also add you to room?
Maybe pause your recording, Karin.
Welcome back, everyone. Good to have you back in plenary. Some people are still coming back. I hope you had nice discussions. We had a few groups that all of a sudden there were only 1 or 2 people present, but some other groups there were really, I think, 5, 6 people and active discussions. Sam has been roaming around, and I think Judith was also active in some of the groups. And there were some nice and inspirational things said. I see also a lot of thumbs up and claps, so great to see that it was also for you having nice discussions. Nice. So it would be very nice to hear a bit about these discussions. And we thought it would be nice to do that via a Mentimeter. I will put up my screen, but I also have a link in the chat. So if you can decide how to join the Mentimeter, you can take your phone and scan the QR code. You can also go directly on your own computer via the link that I just shared. Yeah. And please share some thumbs up if you're in it. I see the numbers going up, 80, 90. They can also go to menti.com and then indeed use the code that Sam just shared. There's different ways to get into it, so let's hope you manage. Okay, I see already more than 130 people coming in. A few more people coming in. Scan this QR code or click on the link in the chat. So let's have a look, because what we're going to ask you to do is to summarize a bit like what you heard in your group discussions. And if for one reason or another you couldn't have this discussion in your group, think for yourself what your project would be. So the first question is, what changes will your project contribute to at the individual level? So really at the individual level, for your own project or the project that you just discussed within your group, share one of those individual level changes. And if you don't manage to get into the Mentimeter, you can also write it in the chat. That's also fine, but it would be nice maybe on the Mentimeter screen, if possible. Nice. Many things are coming in already. Yeah, great. I see many things, already 60 contributions. And the nice thing about Mentimeter is if I press space, normally I should be able to group them. So let's see what happens. To group all your responses. Yeah, nice. So many of you have said things related to internationalization. So, for example, international mindsets, expanding international networks, experience on international setting, knowledge transfer, becoming a global citizen, connections in the community level, open minds, better understanding of how EU works for citizens. So yeah, this is really individual things, right? And very often I see around the mindset, but I also see sometimes about skills. So it's really about the individual changes. Okay, what other changes have you said? Indeed, here skills, increase of skills, digital skills, media literacy. So a bit more specific about what type of skills, language skills, of course, often personal growth, learning new strategy, new teaching methods. Yes, these are the things you can think of, like of individual changes. Intercultural skills. Well, you see much more awareness, perspectives, competencies, inclusion, motivation. Nice. And let's look at the others. Better educated, less fear. Also a nice one. Experienced approach, connections. Yeah, you see many things are possible. But it's very important to think about this. What do we want to change at the individual level? Great. Now let's take this next step. So you have these individual level changes, but maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's also these organizational level changes or institutional level. If you have identified one or two of these, please share them also in the Mentimeter. Yes, a lot of things are coming in as well. Sometimes this is a bit more difficult to think about. Organizational levels always a bit more abstract maybe for us than individuals, but still many changes can happen there. And I see that also you have identified many of them. We'll group them again. Let's see what Mentimeter makes out of these groups. Takes a bit of time, but it allows you to still submit your responses. It needs to think for a long time. Okay, let's see if it comes up. Yeah, there's a question in chat about we'll share the results of the Mentimeter. Well, we're recording this session, and the recordings will be shared with by your national agency. So in every country, there's a national agency that can share this recording, and there you will see them as well. Maybe you can see if we also share along with the national agency the summary of this Mentimeter. And maybe a bit later, at the end of the webinar, I can download them and add them in the chat. Let me try to do that. Yeah. Okay, so Mentimeter made 11 groups. Let's have a look at the type of groups. What did you respond? A lot of networking. So at organizational level, you say there's a lot of changes related to networking. So the organization probably increases its network, building an international network, new contacts across institutions in different countries. Yes. Then we have teaching methods. I think that's also, of course, it's an education program, or at least many programs are related to education. So then teaching methods are quite obvious. So one teacher can learn something new, but it would be very nice if that's also taken up by the organization, right? The organization is really changing its approach to teaching. Like you see that happening as well. Diversity in teaching methodologies, innovative teaching, new methods, knowledge transfer, etc. Curricula and related to teaching methods, but also you can change your curricula thanks to these programs. Also the organizational level. Inclusion, also nice. Schools can also have this awareness of inclusion and have more visibility related to inclusion, etc. Okay, let's go to the next question. So we go from individual to organization, now we go to community society level. Maybe again, a bit more difficult than the previous questions, but just curious to hear from you. Did you identify also changes at community or society level for your project? And I see a question in the chat, and some is already responding to it. We're coming to a bit more theory about impact in the next part of the webinar, and afterwards we'll have enough time for Q&A. So then we can also come back to this, Helen. If you, after the theory, you still have this question, let's come back to that afterwards. And good to see that there is also impacts or changes, at least to identified at the community and society level. European awareness, better citizens. Better citizens, and that's a nice one. And what is a better citizen? It's a nice one. Reduce violence. That would be great. Greater social cohesion, willingness to act from the community, cultural exchange, adoption of best practices, feeling more European, more international mindsets. Yeah. Some communities will start partnering maybe with each other, with another community in another European country. Less burnout, less empathy fatigue. Interesting. Yep. Here someone explains it as well. Who people have an international experience have usually a bit more open attitude to the society. Yeah, that's often the way. Indeed, I like what we think. Like if you have this experience internationally, that you're as an individual, you become more open, but also it can happen in the society that if there's more internationals there, that this whole society can have a more international or open attitude. Less Euroscepticism. Yeah. Someone is talking about the museum becoming an active partner in society. Also an interesting one. Tolerance. Yes, great. You see how many different types of changes are happening there. Raised awareness of young persons' challenges, better professionals, systemic learning. Yeah. Okay, now the very last one is about the policy, systemic level. So even higher level, more like what will change in the real system. And that can be, think about local authorities or national governments maybe, or other kind of policies. I see a nice one. Come on, we have 2 employees not reaching that high. That's fine. And like that's why we're also saying you don't need to have impact on all these levels. That might also be too ambitious. So think for yourself if you have impact on these levels, and if so, then you add it in your project, and you also see if you want to measure it. If you have a very small project or a very small organization, like with 2 employees, maybe indeed it's not very realistic. You have this level at systemic level change, and that's fine. We don't expect that everyone is reaching systemic change. That would be nice, but it's not very realistic. But maybe all together we can still achieve it. Push advancement of national policy frameworks, extra funds structurally. Yeah, that would be great if that happens. Science-informed policy making. Nice. To be more like the Finnish system. Everyone wants to be like the Finnish system. Nice. Someone say hard to reach. Yeah, it's indeed hard to reach the policy systemic level. And like I said, it's not necessarily in every project that you aim for this. It's nice, but it's mainly the bigger projects, of course. Adaptation of law, quality label, collaboration on stakeholder level, promoting critical thinking, changes in laws, strong inclusion of youth perspective, more inclusive policy changes, yes. Future-proof higher education system. Yeah, these are all very nice ones. And again, think for yourself if it makes sense that within your project you aim for this kind of changes. Or did you say, well, we have such a small project, we are happy if we have change at individual or maybe organizational level, and that's it. Maybe or maybe in the direct community also as well, but then we not yet for this. And that's okay. Someone wants to aim for Erasmus Plus or EU level policy discussion, digital literacy, and then intercultural learning. Nice, very high level, huh? But and sometimes it's possible to aim for that. So this is just for you to have an idea and to what is possible. That you don't just stop saying like, okay, we have had an exchange and we had a project and we only have improved language skills of this individual. No, maybe it's learning, reaching to more, and it maybe real changes are happening at bigger levels. So that is actually the main purpose of this exercise. Thank you for your contribution, Mentimeter. I'll close the Mentimeter right now. And we're going to have a bit of look at the theory. Like we said, you've already heard about impact within Erasmus+, but now we're going to look a bit more into what is impact exactly. And Sam will guide you through that.
Yes, I will. I hope it goes well. Okay. Okay. Just a second. I hope you see it correct, Karin. Yes, wonderful. We had some issues a little bit earlier when we were doing this. Okay, okay. So let's have a look at a little bit at definitions and concepts in relation to impact, or if you want to say results. And there are many results that you will be able to achieve. You have seen quite a bit of an overview of all the kind of changes that may be there that you will be able to achieve with your projects. So just a second. There are many concepts in relation to impact. I think it is important to understand what impact actually is, and that we know what kind of definitions that we use. So here, let's have a look at the type of results that may be achieved. Well, you will be looking at activities only. So we start with the activities. Activities per se is not a result. It's not something that you say, hey, a result of a project. No, it's something that you do during a project. Think about conducting a training, building a website, organizing exchange visits, developing curricula, etc. But activities will lead to results, and there may be these different levels that we are talking about. So first of all, the activities will lead to deliverables, products of services that directly are linked to the project activities, such as training materials, curricula, we heard the word just now, digital tools, websites, increased capacities, all very specific deliverables of activities. And these first or direct results are what we call outputs of your activities. So let's go to the next level of results. Results what you see now is actually outcomes, which links to the use or adaptation or adoption of your project outputs by your target group or direct beneficiaries, such as students, teachers, learners, parents, or organizations. All of these changes at this level are called outcomes. They use the products. So it is not about what the project produces, but about how these deliverables actually change what people think and, of course, do. So those are your outcomes. And we have been talking about impact, but we are talking now about, different levels of change that will hopefully lead to impact, which is actually the next level. And so maybe an example here, in the outcomes, students actively cooperate in youth work, teachers apply newly acquired skills, and schools are promoting new digital tools. For us, these are still not quite impact. Impact is the next level, which would be the longer or broader effects of the project on society, communities, organizations, individuals, as we said. Yes, and they capture all kinds of changes that may be systemic, policies, cultural norms, longer different behavior of individuals. And you will not achieve this change through your project alone, but most likely this is a change that your project will just contribute to. And for example, active citizenship, improved employability, improved economic development. Okay. Having said that, it looks quite easy, but we realize that this is something that is sometimes difficult to define. Yeah, but let's have a look. In summary, activities produce outputs. Sorry, I would like to go back to this one. Activities produce outputs. Outputs produce outcomes, and outcomes contribute to impact. And the word contribution here is key. Yeah, because there may be other things that will be necessary to bring about the change at society or community level. And so your project cannot achieve this change all by itself. In one of the groups where I was, there was talking about politics and about elections, and that maybe we would have an impact with projects on the results of elections. Well, of course, you can only hope to contribute to that, and you can never be held responsible for achieving that change or accountable for that change. Therefore, we say contribute. Okay. So I think that's this one, and then the one that is on top here, you can see the link to the guide, the impact guide, and chapter 1.1 actually describes more in detail these different levels and what they mean. So if you have questions about that later on, you can always refer to the guide. Okay. Now, Karin, let me see, because Karin is going to apply this to an example. Karin, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, let's give you an example, because we think it always helps in understanding this theory. We have two examples. Well, first start with a mobility project, and some of you are familiar with Erasmus Plus language, you know it as KA1 projects. So this is about, and often in the mobility projects, we have an exchange program. So the activity is students' participation in an exchange program. Yeah, we all know this is easy. But then what does it lead to? Well, the first change, the outputs are the direct changes, are maybe those changes that we have mentioned before, like the improved language skills, for example. Right away, if you're participating in an exchange program, basically everyone improves language skills. Also, you have maybe some increased awareness of European norms and values. And you get some European contacts. So these changes are the direct results of this exchange program, which is also how we kind of can make sure that, yeah, this is happening. This is relatively easy to achieve with our activity. But now let's see what happens actually afterwards. Because afterwards, we would like to have a change as well. Sometimes we call it also the change in the longer term. But then we want those students to do something, to actually have a really changing something in their behavior also after this exchange program, right? So if they have this European context, it's nice that even after the exchange program, that students maintain European contacts. So that might be one of those outcomes. And there, it's very important to always realize who is doing what. So there, in this case, it's always the student who is doing something. It's not the program anymore. No, it's really the student taking an action. The student is actively maintaining those European contacts. It could also be, if it's about teachers are there involved, that teachers apply what they learned in their own schools. Yeah, and that's why we say these outcomes are really important, because that's where the real change is happening. If you have learned something and afterwards you don't apply it, there's no real change. So that's why we say outputs are interesting, but in the end, the outcomes are where the real change is happening, because people apply something also after the program. They're changing something. And then we say this can contribute to the impact of becoming, as students become European citizens and embrace European values in their day-to-day life, for example. Or that the school organizes more Europe-focused activities. Could be, in the end, an impact that it contributes to. Again, the word contributes, because there's other things needed probably to achieve this impact. We will not only achieve it with our own program. Yeah? Let's have a look at another example. So a partnership project. So also people are familiar with Erasmus Plus language. It's the KA2 projects. Here an example of a project about a cleanup campaign, a waste cleanup campaign. So let's say I'm going to do this campaign, and then my activities are to organize this waste cleanup campaign and to build a website for sharing information about it, because I think it's also important that other people know about it. So this is what I'm doing, my activities, but then what my results are. So the outputs are, for example, students and local communities have experience with the cleanup campaigns, they participated in it, they have experience with it. Very nice. And that I built a website, so the website is there. So that's our direct results. But that is not a change on itself. No, we're looking at the next step, so the outcomes. So what would be this change, or can be? We just imagined one, could be something different as well. But it would be nice if the students and the school staff, they keep the school clean also after those campaigns. Maybe you had 1 or 2 campaigns, but then also people get inspired by this and they keep on cleaning or keeping the school and their environments clean. That would be great. That is a real change. And also if the local communities who participated in it, maybe that they also support these activities and that they actively do things to support these activities. That would be really a change. And there again, you see who is in the driver's seat, who is this making this change. It's specific audiences like students, school staff, or the local communities. They do something else after the project. And that can lead again to impacts like the school develops maybe policies on waste reduction or new initiatives on environmental projects because they got so much inspired from these campaigns. Another impact could be that there's less waste in school and the surrounding communities. And you can think of many others as well. So do you see the difference in between like an activity and outputs? And those are often, how often we say our result is this output. We have achieved that people participated. We have made a website. Great. Yes, our result is a website. But it's only interesting if afterwards people engage with this website and do something with it and really change their behavior. That is the real interesting part of we say, because then you achieve a real change, an outcome, or even an impact. Okay.
Very nice, Karen. I would like to come to the question that was raised in the chat earlier about networks, and was like a prerequisite for a partnership project or an internationalization project. It's good to start with a network, but at the moment you do this, you have an activity, then hopefully at the end the impact is that this network becomes something that is really institutionalized, that it's really expanding. And therefore, in my answer to the chat, I was saying at a certain moment, if this network then grows and becomes really an important force, yes, or a really important thing, then that could be your impact. And so you always have to think about, hey, levels of change. So in the beginning, you start building a network, and in the end, yes, your impact is you have a truly functioning network that has changed the way of working of everybody. So think about those kind of levels of change. Okay. Right. Wonderful.
Yes. So now we have given these examples and a bit of the theory. So let's have we do a small quiz. Let's see if we got the concepts right, because we understand it's difficult. So let's kind of repeat them again, but then in a quiz form. So I'm gonna launch. There's about 5 questions. You will get them in your screen, and let's see. It's anyway anonymous, so don't worry if you don't get them correct. Yeah, nice to see. I think already more than 100 people responded.
Yeah, 120.
Wow, it's going fast. And the 30.
It's going really fast.
Not sure if there's a submit button, but for those, maybe check to be sure if you've clicked on it, if it's there. But we get many responses already in there. Okay, I'll give you 5 more seconds. And then I will close it. And like I said, it's anonymous, so we're not going to see your name and see if you put something correct or not. It's just a way to discuss the concepts once again. Okay, I'm going to close it. We have 164 people responded.
It's growing still, 166. Yeah.
Let's share the results.
Okay.
Right. Sam, will you talk us through for the results?
Yeah. Oh, I missed them now. I had them on the screen, and I'm not sure when they left now.
I think if you click on poll, you can see them again, but otherwise I will talk through.
Okay. Let me see. Okay.
So the first question was about what is the result in the context of the Erasmus Plus project?
I see that 68% of the people said, hey, the change that occurs because of the project. I think that was the correct answer. You can see that. Activities, yeah, it's a result, not a result in the sense of a project. It is maybe a change for an organization. Hey, we're doing things that we didn't do before, but it's actually your project activity. So a little bit, people, it's a project. You do things, and the things that you do will change things that are done in the school or by people. So the change that occurs because of the project. So that's the correct answer. Tangible deliverables, products or services that are directly produced by the project. Outputs, 80% of the people had the correct answer. So I'm really happy about that answer. I also see that the number of people say impacts and outcomes may also be tangible deliverables, products or services. Not really. Outcomes is about the use of the products and services and deliverables. So it's a next level, and impact is what you contribute to. All these changes may be in a way tangible, that you can see, that you can touch it, but it is not the direct product and service that you produce as a consequence of the activities. Okay, so correct answer, outputs. Then, what is an outcome in the context of an Erasmus Plus program? More than 50% did it correctly. The use of direct project results by the target group. Okay, a mix up between outputs and outcomes. Okay, that's okay. But I think when you make a project and you look at it again, then you will more and more start understanding the difference between outputs and outcomes and impacts as well. Because some people say, 29% say impact is actually an outcome. No, impact is the wider level change at society. Okay. Then why is understanding documenting project results beneficial before applying for E+ funding? Select all correct answers. Well, there's 2. Hey, 52% it helps to allocate resources efficiently. Yes, because you make sure that the resources are used efficiently so that you produce the right results. So that is one thing. And the other one is it informs project design, goal setting, planning, and monitoring. If you define your results clearly, then it will help you also monitor and plan for your results accordingly. So it's a good way of making sure this is what we do, that is what we want to achieve, and we will monitor what it is that we will be achieving or not. True or false, Erasmus Plus projects can lead to more than one outcome. Absolutely true. Yes, wonderful. So I think that's nice. Karin, I think we have them.
Yeah, and nice to see, Anna. That's many of you got it correct. But we also see that sometimes these concepts are a bit confusing still. These outputs and outcomes. And it can also be because sometimes they're called differently. In some contexts, those outputs are called indeed results or deliverables, and that makes it confusing.
Yeah.
And to me, we're using these concepts, and it's used in the impact handbook is used using it. So maybe you can show the next slide as well.
Yes, here we go.
So in the impact guide, but there's also other impact tools where you will see this language of output, outcome, impact. But you will also see in a program guide or sometimes elsewhere other terminology used. And we agree this is really confusing, that there's different terminology used. So for me, it doesn't matter too much if you call it an outcome or an output or an impact. The more important is that you think for yourself, okay, I'm doing a project. What is my direct result? And what will afterwards happen more on the long term? And what will people do differently? What will really change? And what wider impact will it contribute to? So these kind of questions can help you to define this and not only think about your direct deliverables, because that's the easiest way to think about this, but really think about the other changes you actually want to achieve as well. Yeah. So this is an overview, and you can find it also back again in the handbook, how these terminologies are used. But try again for yourself all the time when you're writing your project to think about, okay, I'm gonna do this, but why am I doing this? What will it lead to? I think that is a very important question, to question yourselves or your colleagues, not as a criticism that it's bad, but more like to help yourself think through the reason why. And sometimes that leads to the fact that you might choose another activity to really achieve an outcome or an impact you want to work towards. How you can do that, we'll talk about in the next webinar. So that is already a little teaser for next week, that we have a webinar about how to define these outputs and outcomes and impacts for your project. So if you're interested in that, join us next week, Thursday, again at the same time. But we hope for this webinar you get an idea of what do we call actually as an impact, and that you see that there's multiple impacts in Erasmus+. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Yeah, so that's actually already summarizing the key message, right? So what we have been talking through for the last 1.5 hours approximately is that every Erasmus+ project aims to achieve a variety of results. And we call these outputs, outcomes, impacts. And the most important is to think what will really change as a result of your project. And when you describe this, you can really maximize the success of your project because you can monitor what's happening. And then we also say monitor really what is happening at this outcome level. It's not easy to monitor it. That's why we also have a webinar about that later in January. But if you monitor that, then you can really see, did our project really have change? Because otherwise it was nice that we sent so many people on an exchange, but if afterwards nothing changed, why are we doing this? Then you can question yourself, like, what are the real changes that are happening? So that is, so we say, it helps a lot to describe those results that you expect, afterwards to monitor them, because it can help you to keep on improving and maximize success of your project. And in the end, to contribute to meaningful and lasting transformation in the education and the society. So that was the main message for today. We have still some time left for Q&A. So I see some questions popping up in the chat, so we can address these. So we have still like half an hour to max even an hour, but I don't think we need that much time. But in case we can stay for another so much time. Maybe Sam already showed the next slide before we really start with the Q&A. Some people might have to leave already. That's fine. And then we would really be happy to see you again in the next webinars. So next week, Thursday, is about defining impact before your application. So really how you to make this change, this chain of results. We're going to talk about it next week. And in January, we have 2 more webinars about monitoring and evaluation, and also how to manage this impact in your organization. So that is already to be announced. I see already some people having to leave. That is completely fine. For those who want to stay, please stay. We have still some Q&A and answering questions that are popping up.
There are questions about materials, so sharing of the recording, but also sharing of the PowerPoints. Yeah, we will check this with the Erasmus Plus program, the national agency in the Netherlands, and then see is how we can make sure that that this will then indeed be available to at least the participants who were here. I think that is the key thing. Yeah, and then others as well. So people who did not join, and maybe people will be joining next week. Yeah, and then they would still like to have a look at the recording of this week. So we have to see how we can do that. But we'll follow up on that.
Yeah, no, probably it will be updated on the websites of your national agency. So keep an eye on that. We're in contact with the NAVIC, so the national agency in the Netherlands. So if it will pop up somewhere first, it's probably there first, but afterwards probably soon also in the other national agencies. Okay, so let's. There was a question in the chat, I think. Is it better to focus on the impact pathway or on the different levels in the proposal? There is a limitation of characters. From Regine Comas. And I think you mean with the different levels is what we just talked about in the beginning of the webinar, right? I think that's a very good question because there's so much now. You're like, oh my God, we have so many different impacts. How can we ever explain that in a project proposal? Well, anyway, next week we come really to that, but we can already say like to make these different levels, output, outcome, impact. I think that's the most important, but then within your outcomes, there can be individual ones or the organizational changes or society changes. So actually you write it up in there. So these individual, organizational, society and policy levels can help you reflect, do we reach these? And yes, do we reach these on output or outcome or impact level? So it can be anywhere. So we encourage you really to write these outputs, outcome, impacts, and then for every time you think, okay, will the impact be on individual level? Maybe we have some impacts individual level, but maybe we have more on organizational or societal level. And then you write these down. I hope that answers your question, or unless Sam has something to add.
No, that's okay. I think the key thing is that you are also concise about what it is that you will produce in the sense of your results, define your results. So don't make it sometimes too long stories if you use few words, but it's clear like what is the change. Then I think that's also okay.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at further questions. It says Joe from Ireland says we are asked to make an impact and make the project sustainable, but monitoring both at local level and at the level of national agencies is hard to measure, and there is no extra funding for this. So I think that is a question that really focuses on how to measure the change. And if you say there's no funding for this, then yeah, I find that a pity, because you would like to inform people about the change that will be taking place or that is taking place as a consequence of the project that you're doing. And I think this is in the interest of all, also from the national agencies, to make sure that these changes are demonstrated and that not just measured, but also demonstrated. So, yeah, I would say be clear about what it is that you need to know, and that will definitely be part of the webinar that we'll be having in January, which is the webinar number 3, because then we'll be focusing basically on monitoring and evaluation of impact. But I think it's a key thing that you're raising.
Yeah, and maybe there to add also, Joe, is by thinking about it beforehand, sometimes you can already use things that you can use throughout your project. Maybe you're already doing things that you can use for your monitoring. So then you don't have to do additional activities necessarily. Of course, it's nice if you have the funding and the time to do additional activities to really monitor and evaluate these outcomes or impact. But if you think about it beforehand, maybe there's already things you can be creatively thinking about, or activities you do anyways and maybe you have some meetups or some visits, or people have to write a report, that you ask specific things for in there already. But indeed, we come back to this in more detail in the January webinar.
I see there's an interesting question by Maria Pranzido. She says, after project kickoff regarding dissemination of our project implementation results, is there a specific guideline we need to follow? I find it interesting because at the moment there is a new project going on which focuses on actually communication dissemination regarding impact, and we will also be involved in that project. So we will come back to you on this, Maria. There's an official guide, but it's a little bit outdated, we understand. One of the jobs that we will have is to make sure that there will be a practical guide for organizations on how to communicate on impact.
Yeah.
In order to create more impact, even. Right? So that is the idea. The idea is that
so
if you communicate on impact, it will lead to more impact. Okay.
Yeah, for now there is indeed an official communication guide which you can ask to your national agency. But like Sam said, we're working on making it even more specific and user-friendly for you guys. And we expect to have this by June next year. We're still in the starting phase for this, but we expect to have by June next year to share it.
Then there's another question. Should we already have the impact at the end of the project implementation? I would say it will happen after it, so it is always needed to describe it in the final report. And yes, this is a complicated one because sometimes impact is actually achieved well after the project is finished. So the only thing that you can say, I would say, if you have described what the impact will be, if there are signs of possible impact. You may not measure the impact, but what you would like to show definitely is that you see, do we see change at the outcome level? Are the products and services that we have produced, are they being utilized? Yes, and maybe this leads then already to some change at a higher level. But signs could be okay. And it will be nice if you could report on that. I think everybody will be happy about that, and that also will be part of the guide that we'll be working on. Because you have to communicate on things that may be just in a very initial stage. Very good question, Michaela. Okay. Valentina, how will we have access to the recorded webinar? Yes. I think we've mentioned that earlier. We will be in touch with NUFIC here in the Netherlands, National Agency here, and see how we can make it available, or how they think they will make it available to all of you and others in the various countries. Okay. I think these are the questions so far. I think there's space for more questions. If you have more questions, please share them with us so we can see we can have an answer to them. I see many hearts, Karin, so I think
I'm trying
seem to be happy with the webinar. That's good.
I cannot add hearts to everyone, but it's very nice to see your messages.
Yeah.
Really. So there's so next week we have a different webinar. It continues basically. So now we explain what is impact, how we see it. So we explained this output, outcome, impact, and different types of impacts within Erasmus+. Next week we go about how can you define that in your application. So we have some tips and tricks of really further. So it's diving a bit deeper into this outputs, outcomes, and impact to help you define this. So we hope to see you again next week. Indeed, I see some people saying it already. And if next week you can't join, you can always watch the recording. And then in January we have 2 more webinars, also taking next steps. Great.
Pity, Hannah, that you cannot join next week, but I hope you will be able to access the recording later.
Yeah, and actually everything we mentioned here is also written in this handbook, in the impact handbook that we shared already twice. I think the link, maybe I can share it once again. Here it's in the chat. Everything we say here you can read back in the handbook. There, the same examples are mentioned, and also a bit more detail, and also additional resources to read. So if you still have questions about this context, have a look there. I'm sure many of your questions will be answered. And otherwise, maybe come back in the next webinars and you ask your questions there.
Justina is referring to that it would be nice to have a bit more time for group discussion. I think that is also true. We have tried to come up with some group discussion just now, about 15 to 20 minutes. And it worked well, but we were thinking that we could have maybe 500, 600 participants, and then having group discussions is a little bit difficult to organize. But hey, we tried, and I think it works. So let's see how we can do that again next time.
Yeah, good suggestion.
Okay. I think that's about it. Oh, more coming.
So that's it. There's no questions coming in anymore. So thank you so much. It was really nice having you here. We're a big group, and I really liked it. It went well with this dynamics, even though some people maybe got kicked out of their breakout groups, but we managed to put most of you back in. So it was nice having you.
There were only 46 breakout groups, so.
Yeah, 46, yeah. So it was very nice having you, and hope to see you again in next week's webinar, or otherwise in January.
Okay, thank you. See
Bye
you.
bye. Thank you so much.